Struggles with following directions. Again, it's not because they don't want to, it's because they miss it. Okay? Brain research says an individual with ADHD oftentimes misses every 3 to 4 words because they're trying to pay attention to everything else. I see a few head nods back there, right? And so if you are talking to a student, you may have to repeat those directions. Okay? Might blurt out inappropriate comments or show their emotions without regard for consequences. It's because they have like a little glitch in their filter, right? Their executive functioning, which is up here where we make our decisions, it's really hard for them to stop and think, if I do X, then this is going to happen. It's very spontaneous, it's very impulsive, and so those are some of the strategies that we work on and teach at school, is how to slow that impulsiveness down. But it takes a lot of repetition and a lot of practice. And if the student has practiced it inappropriately for a while, then it takes us a little longer to begin to fix that and teach positive behaviors. They will often just interrupt other people, right? Again, it's because they're filtering everything, they're processing everything, and they all of a sudden think they have something to say and to contribute, so we're going to say it before we forget it, or before our brain picks up other things that we need to pay attention to. Is often on the go or busy. These are the kids that will fidget, will wiggle, okay? They won't hold still, and that's okay, because that's helping them cope and focus on what they need to. So the wiggling is okay, the movement is fine, the fidgets are fine. And that might be a student where we have to give them some kind of tactile thing to hold on to. Sitting or staying seated can be a difficult skill. I have oftentimes had students in my classroom with ADHD, and I lovingly refer to them as Tigger, because as soon as they sit down, they're right back up. It's like they have a spring in their rear end. Okay? It's not because they don't want to sit, it's because it really is hard, because we just, biologically, they have to move. And then voice volume can be a struggle to maintain. These are the kids in class that you often hear, shh, talk quietly. Use your inside voice. You are yelling, even though they don't know that they are. So those kids translate on the bus when they're talking, and you have the one who's always really loud, and you feel like you're always telling them to quiet down. It's probably because in their ears they are, but to the world they're not. Okay? Questions on that part?
I'm going to talk to you after this.
Okay. All right. Okay, so some strategies to help with these individuals. We kind of already talked about this, but repeat or restate directions as needed. You might feel like a stuck record, and that's okay, because if you give them the direction, eventually they're going to hear it and start to process it. Limit your number of instructions. This is one thing that's really hard within the classroom, is that sometimes you give 1, 2, 3, or 4-step directions. Okay, so if you want them to sit down and put their bag away, then you might give that in 2 steps. Hey, I need you to sit down, now put your bag under your seat, or wherever that goes, whatever your steps are. Give them one, have them do it, give them the next, if at all possible, because if you give multiples, they're probably going to miss it. Okay? Model appropriate behaviors as needed. If they're not understanding, you might have to model what you want them to do, especially if it's something new. Okay? If you're having them move to a different location on the vehicle, you might have to actually physically show them where you want them to be, because they might not understand. They just might not get it. Also understand that they may forget what you said. They might have been, yeah, I got it. They might even be able to repeat it, and by the time they get to where they need to go, it's gone. So then that's where the repeat happens, okay? Be patient and redirect as many times as needed. This is primarily for the voice volume, as well as if they're interrupting. You will have to repeat that a lot, okay? Oftentimes, I don't even say anything. I'll just, or bring your volume down, right? And so you can have the fancy cards, but you can also just do some of those visuals just to help as a clue, okay? Keep your emotions in check, remain calm and neutral. I put this on there because when you become a stuck record, day in and day out, over the same behaviors, it can get hard. It can get frustrating, but it's really not about you. It's about their brain and how they filter things. And so staying calm, remaining neutral, just giving those directions as lovingly as calm as possible is really going to help the situation so that they don't get super frustrated. Yelling and raising your voice is not effective. Okay? They're not hearing it by spoken word because their brain isn't processing all the words. By you yelling it, they're not going to hear it any better. Okay? Odds are they're probably just going to tune you out even more. They're like, she's yelling at me, I'm done. Right? And then use your visuals as needed. So we have some visuals that, depending on the student, we can help provide for transportation, but we also you can just use hand visuals, and if you use them consistently, then that will help the students. Okay? All right.
Okay.
Now it's Janie's turn.
You're like, okay, so students with autism. Again, some of the things that are applicable to kids with ADHD are also for those kids with autism. Again, they're not going to process information the same that we do. So they have difficulty making eye contact. That is just a characteristic of autism. It's not being disrespectful. That is, I've heard people with autism talk, and that is actually painful for some of them to give that direct eye contact. So again, they're not being disrespectful, but making them give you that eye contact is difficult. Okay, so just know that. They may not respond to verbal directions. Again, their auditory processing is not the greatest. That's why we use visuals with them. Also, kids with autism, when you talk, the words go away. They need something more permanent in order to kind of sit there and process it. They are better visual processors than auditory processors. Again, they may act as though they do not hear you, but they do. A lot of times, again, but that is something that is very difficult for you, so that's why we do use visuals more with them, because it's permanent. They may make noises, humming sounds, loud pitch sounds. Sometimes they'll laugh at inappropriate times. Again, that is just a characteristic of kids with autism. They don't always know social situations, and so it may seem like, it's a very aggressive behavior, but they're laughing. Again, their emotions and their behaviors do not always match, okay? May say and talk about the same thing repeatedly. Characteristic of autism, they have their favorite things they like to talk about. Thomas the Train, Minecraft. I heard a speaker talk about the kid loved deep fat fryers, and he would talk about deep fat fryers, and he knew all of those things. So again, they have those favorite things they like to talk about, and when you're talking with them, they'll rearrange the conversation and come back to their favorite thing. So again, that is a characteristic of kids with autism. They may engage in challenging behaviors such as hitting, kicking, scratching, yelling, crying. We've had strippers. I don't know if you've got any strippers on the bus, but we've had strippers in the classroom. And again, they have learned those behaviors because they're probably trying to escape or want you to go away. If I hit you, you'll go away from me, because sometimes they have sensory needs, and if you're too close and they want you to go away. Does that make sense? So there is usually a reason why they are having that challenging behavior. And again, trouble waiting. They have problems processing time. So for you to say, wait a minute, they may look at their watch and wait 1 minute. They're very literal too, and say, okay, now it's time, it's been a minute. So again, think about that. And again, those are some of the skills that we have to teach directly to WAVE. So again, we're going to use clear and concise language. Less is more. Again, we don't want to overwhelm them with all the language. And again, we use the visuals more because again, it's permanent. It's hard for them to hold that information in their brain. Again, use positive language to reinforce that behavior. I like the way you're sitting. Nice hands, or we call safe hands or ready hands. This is something that we teach in our classrooms. Avoid yelling and getting upset. Again, that's not going to help de-escalate the situation. How many people did de-escalation with me a couple of weeks ago? Okay. So again, we need to remain calm and use that calm voice. Remove items that can be thrown or broken. Again, that's that non-restrictive interventions. Give students a heads up if there is a change in routine, because that is something that causes a lot of anxiety in kids if you change their routine. Again, that autism brain, their world is a whole different set of rules for them, and if they know a rule and it keeps them safe and then you change it on them, their anxiety is going to go up and you're probably going to see behaviors. So we try to teach those changes ahead of time so that we don't have that anxiety in those behaviors. Again, and using those visual cues. Again, we've got these visuals, and we are going to be doing more intense training with kids, with you guys that have kids with specific behavior plans. So that is coming up. All right, emotional disability. They can argue frequently with adults. You have those kids that pull you into those arguments. They're very good at those things. They can lose their temper very easily. They always seem to be on the edge.
Short fuse.
Yeah, yeah. If anybody's familiar, who's been trained with the nonviolent crisis intervention?
CPI and
The
CI.
CPI.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, they're in that anxiety or they're defensive. They're always kind of on that edge of that risk behavior. May refuse to follow rules. They may blame others for their own mistakes. Deliberately annoy others. Again, all behavior is communication. So they may do that deliberately. They're probably trying to get attention from somebody. Curse or be disrespectful. The sentence enhancers are free-flowing.
They get spicy.
They can seek attention through ways that are not positive. Again, annoying, the hitting, the kicking, the biting, and they may not ask for help or accept help. Again, if they're in those escalated levels and that's kind of their norm, they're not processing those consequences.
So is this a different umbrella than like ADHD and autism, or can this fall under ADHD and emotional disability?
They could have ADHD and an emotional disability.
Okay.
Yes.
This is for students, again, when we have an IEP, there are 13 categories. Emotional disability is one of those categories, but you could also have ADHD and emotional disability. Sometimes those kids with ADHD or other health impaired, that's the exceptionality that we have on the IEP, but sometimes it spills over into this. So again, a lot of these are connected.
Yeah, that's why you'll see some overlap, but some things that are very specific. Like there are more specific skills and strategies that you work with a student on the autism spectrum than you would with a student that has an emotional disability, but there are some things that are very similar.
Because, let me see what's on the side. Because again, you've seen those kids, the more you talk, the more escalated they become, or they'll draw you into an argument. So a lot of times we use less talking with them, but that's also something you use with kids with autism. Sometimes when you get closer to a student, they escalate, and sometimes you get closer, they de-escalate. So again, it is very student specific. So again, here's some generalities, but it's not going to work for everybody. So for those students with emotional disability, again, that relationship is key. They're more likely to do something with you if you have that relationship. So if you know a student likes Minecraft, and they like to talk about Minecraft, and if you know a little bit of Minecraft, I know there's kids, I don't know. You can develop that relationship with them, and they're more likely to want to do those things for you. Again, speak calmly, rephrase what the student has said. Avoid those power struggles. Again, they're very adept in pulling you into those arguments. Redirect the student back to the original direction. please sit down. Saying again calmly, because again, if they see that they're starting to poke you enough, they'll keep doing it. I call it my flat face, and it has to be learned, you know, because kids will say some pretty outrageous things, but if they're looking for a reaction and you don't give one, they'll usually stop.
Yeah, because if they find your button, they will stomp on it if they figure out what your button is sometimes.
Okay, so remember that calm, neutral tone. Give space. Again, a lot of times these kids don't want you, and that's why they're kicking and fighting and all of that. Remember to observe and report what's happened, but you're not in charge of discipline. We have uppers that are in charge of that, okay? Multiple disabilities. Okay, so every student is different. This is an exceptionality. Again, they have multiple disabilities for their exceptionality. It may be an intellectual disability, mild to severe, and what that means is they don't process that information and their problem-solving skills are lower than their peers. May have difficulty with muscle coordination, or difficulty communicating. This might be some kids that have those communication devices that they're using. Again, they may sign, again, communication device, but again, they can have inappropriate behaviors. They can learn those things. If they don't want you close, they may get to get you to go away. Or they may get for attention. You know, it's hard to know. Again, those are inappropriate behaviors. And just because they have multiple disabilities, it doesn't mean that they can't have other things also along with it, such as ADHD, emotional disability, a genetic disorder, or a physical disability. Okay? So again, if they can, have the student repeat the directions back. This lets you know that they understand if they are verbal. Speak calmly. Use those gestures again or your visuals. Use cues as needed to assist with directions. So we've written social stories or social narratives about what's going to happen on the bus and what you need to do. Again, it's that direct instruction. And give those that positive attention. Thank you for sitting down in your seat. I really like that. And again, complimenting when appropriate. So again, some students have specific procedures that need to be followed because of this behavior. And again, we will be doing that individual training with you guys on those specific behavior plans, the instructional control scales, and what things you can use on the bus for those things. Again, they need to be followed by the staff members that are on the vehicle, like again, preferential seating, staff member close to them, sitting away from the exit door, and again, that positive praise. All right, we want to assume that each and every student understands what you're saying. Don't take it personal. Again, that's very big. They may be calling you lots of different things, but again, they're escalated, they're not processing, so don't take it personal. Because again, if you start to take it personal, they may take it to that next level. Again, offer choices when available. Do you guys have like assigned seats on your buses?
Yes.
You do? Okay, so not a lot of choice. I always say if we can give them a choice, give them a choice, because think about a kid's day at school and how many choices they get. They don't get a whole lot, so any little thing, like if you're all fearing a fidget, do you want this one or this one? Again, choices are much better when we can give those things. Follow chain of command for reporting those behavioral issues. Be positive and supportive. And then all students need to learn appropriate social and behavioral skills. And I always say this, even starting in early childhood, we are the training ground for real life. We are trying to teach them appropriate behaviors now, so when they get out in the real world, they're able to be successful. So riding a bus, that might be one of those things, one of those skills they need. Interacting appropriately with others, like on a bus. Again, a skill that they will probably need later in life. I do want to say, you know, it doesn't happen overnight because again, these kids have had, however old they are, to learn these behaviors. So sometimes it takes a while to unlearn these behaviors. Again, positive praise will go a long way. We want you to stay calm. Keep the rules short and simple, or again, having those visuals there for them, those expectations. Consistency in the words and actions you use is critical. Again, knowing those specific triggers is important. You can't always know those, but again, we are doing that specific training. And in general behaviors, we'll talk about that instructional control scale too, if they have one. All right, I think that's it.
And
Yes,
where would you get the?
instructional control scale.
Yeah, so one of the things that we are working on next step is we have a list district-wide of the students who have behavior plans, which school they're from, and so we will be working to make sure with Kathy to figure out who has what student on their routes so that we can then schedule some meetings, because it's not something everyone needs to know. There's a small select group that needs to know about the specific kids that you transport. So like, for example, if you pick up students from May South High School, you will be having some specific trainings if there are students that you pick up from May South High that have behavior plans or instructional control skills. Because we want to make sure that you have the information on how to work with them. Likewise, if you pick up kids from Vermilion and they happen to be in our PBIS program, I want to make sure that you understand some of the tricks and strategies that work for those kids, because not all of the same strategies work for all of those kids. They have some of those different nuances. So it's a process because it's a big thing district-wide, right? And y'all have a lot of bus routes and stuff. So it's just making sure that we are utilizing your time properly and only pulling you to go over the things that you absolutely need to hear. This general stuff is good for everyone, but when we get down into the very big specifics, then we're going to schedule it accordingly so we're not, in essence, wasting time and you're not hearing things you shouldn't hear. Okay?
Any other
Is that
questions?
gonna be an every year type of thing going forward? Like,
So
you know what kids are gonna have behavior plans the year before, right?
that
So-
that is the plan and the hope going forward. With move-ins and move-outs, it always gets a little bit tricky and sticky. So at the very beginning of each year, there's probably going to be some hiccups, but we're trying to figure out an easy process and procedure on how to get some of this training specific stuff done for everyone. So it is on the agenda for the future. We're just trying to figure out the logistics of it. Would that be fair to say?
That's great.
Okay.
Because your guys' routes don't ever change, right? You always got the same.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
We have a child that whenever I'm talking to the other kids, and the kids are enjoying what I'm talking about, even though I'm bawling them out. I really don't bawl them out, I just remind them our rules. And then I let them interact with me and I tell them, well, if that toy leaves a dent in your skin, you know it's too hard, don't bring it on the bus. Because I'm trying to teach them safety, because toys can be deadly. And so we were having this discussion this morning, and the kids were just really enjoying it because one of the boys brought it. And I said, well, I asked him, does it make a dent in your skin? Is it hard? And if I threw it at you, would it hurt? And they go, well, yeah. I said, do you think it belongs on the bus? They go, no. Good, you figured it out. Now next time, let's see if you bring a toy on the bus and it does not bring a dent in your hand. Okay, but this one little girl, she doesn't talk, she's nonverbal. And today, a lot of times she just gets off the bus, right? And I'm thinking maybe because all the kids were enjoying my critique, because they were getting excited about learning how to bring toys that won't hurt. And this little girl was ignored completely, nonverbal. And I'm thinking maybe that's the reason why she did not want to get off the bus, because I did not give her any attention.
It could possibly be.
And
And it could possibly be, and so then when you're doing that again, like just try maybe to give some attention and see if there's a difference, see if there's a shift.
Because a lot of times we'll give kids attention when they're showing those maladaptive behaviors.
Yes.
And it's hard to praise kids when they're doing what they should be because
They
they're
don't
doing what they should be. So again, when we write behavior plans, that's one of the things that we put in is when they're doing what they're doing, give them praise, 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 that specific praise, and that's the behavior we want to see. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, now, this one child also, since she did not want to get off the bus, and she's hanging on to her seat, you can't move her. You can't budge her. And it takes 2 people to pry her fingers off this. Is that normal? And she also clogged and violent.
Yeah, that is not uncommon for kids that have behavior plans. Particularly if she is nonverbal, there's not a whole lot of other ways she can communicate, I'm mad, I'm angry, get away, other than using her body. And so that's not necessarily uncommon. And so part of that might be some different choices to try to get her off the bus. And those are strategies we can work with you on.
Okay.
So, and the staff, there's usually staff that get that student off the bus, right? Do they
Yes.
need, okay.
But it seems like the other parents are they're new, they're all new.
Oh, okay.
And so,
She likes wheels on the bus. We play that, she'll get off the bus.
oh, really? But they did.
So, and that is the other thing that's super great, is that if you know that someone has a student that you had the previous year and they can sometimes show and pose challenging behaviors, those are excellent little hints. That oftentimes, that as teachers in the classroom, we might not even know, because how cool is that? Wheels on the bus is gonna get her off the bus, right? Like, I'd be telling everybody, sing it, get her on, get her off, sing it all the time, it's fine, repeat.
Yeah, I just had it on my phone, and when she did that, I just turned it on, and she got right up to me.
Awesome, there you go, thank you. We'll get to you in just a second, she can next,
I have
yeah.
a question. At the beginning of the year, I had a student on the bus. He was all of those really short. And there was, I tried. I mean, I was black and blue, bruises, he was in a harness, and stuff, and I don't have any information from home.
Okay.
So I don't know what I'm getting into.
And so,
There's none of that stuff was showed, none of that at all.
and so that is one of the things, because some of that is general, right? And so sometimes the general is not going to be the savior, the be all end all, right? And so that's where the specific behavior plans and support plans come into play. And so that is one of the things that we realized as we were, because as a new cooperative, right, as May's SPED cooperative was established, and it's still relatively new in its lifespan, we're in year 3 of this being the SPED co-op just for May's. There are some systems and procedures that we figured out were missing or not enough of. And so part of it is getting those behavior plan specific trainings out to all of you. So hopefully we might not be able to prevent some of the bruises, but hopefully we can lessen them.
I think it's important for parents to have that.
Yes.
Yes.
I would highly agree.
We're trying to be
Whatever.
Yeah.
proactive in that way.
We need that information.
Yes.
Is there, whatever's behind that driver, we're in charge of.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a student who, he has seizures almost daily at school, but we had no information on him for his seizures or for anything else that he has.
Right. And so that will be some of the stuff that we will be able to cover. Your question?
I think we're talking about the same student. What do you do when a student is nonverbal and when he causes injuries, it seems like he's happy to do that? And how can you tell whether he's understanding or not?
That's a big question. Again, we're not familiar with that student, so again, it would be those specific, when we get to that specific training, that we can talk about those things. But again, if this is a student with autism, like I said, they show incongruent behaviors. So again, laughing when it's kind of a serious situation, or crying when you're happy, those type, it doesn't.
When I get really mad, I cry, and it makes me so mad because those don't match, right? So when I get super frustrated, I cry rather than actually present as angry. Even though on the inside, I am I'm in the red, like I'm gone, right? But on the outside, people wouldn't think that I was angry because I'm crying. So there's some of those things that we can get into specifics on those kids that are on your routes.
If you guys have specific questions about specific kids, can we hold on to those? Get with me and then can I relay it to you guys and we'll get them some help? But if you have generic questions, go ahead and ask, but don't ask about specific kids because our regular ed drivers, those will be the meetings that you guys will attend with them in person, okay?
And
That
we'll
way we
have,
can
we'll
get
have
everybody
things
out
for
of
you.
here.
We will have things for you about the kids.
Okay. Yep.
Why do we not get the information about the kids so we know what we're dealing with?
Well, that's what we're trying to.
And that's what we're trying to
fix. We're a little late coming, we understand. And again, we're trying to put those procedures into place so that you guys have that at the beginning of the year.
And it honestly is just, it is a misstep and a practice and procedure that we want to have established now. That as because this is my second year here, this is Janie's third. And so this is also one of those things as we're working with our programs and the kids with behaviors, that's one of the things that we started seeing pretty regularly is as teachers are new, they may not know, hey, you need to reach out to transportation to do some training. Likewise, there wasn't really a policy and procedure set, like a framework for them to know, this is how I do this is who I get a hold of, this is how we can get training established, and so we're trying to kind of problem solve through that. So yes, you are correct, you need the information, and you should have had it, and unfortunately you don't, but we're working really hard to get it to
We
you.
don't, because we have, a bus full of kids and you have no idea what you're dealing with.
Yes.
Right,
I mean, we still have
right.
on our
And
bus, we do not know.
we hear your frustration and we are working towards those policies and procedures to prevent that in the future. Okay? There was a guy over here somewhere.
Are the Maze teachers still doing the capturing kids' hearts?
Yes,
Yes.
they are.
What was the question? Maze teachers, are they doing capturing kids' hearts, like everyone in the building? Yes.
Yep. And then over here.
Can you give us an example of chain of command? I'll give you one of my examples.
Okay.
I had a special ed student that transferred to the big bus, and it was kind of a work in progress. She's successful on my bus, but I emailed the teacher, is that my chain of command? To go to her teacher when I worked out like a 5-scale thing that we addressed, and we worked on it last year, she doesn't need it this year. Or do I go to my supervisor?
You are amazing, and you just keep reaching out to that teacher, but if things don't get resolved, reach out to us and we can help
Yeah.
we can contact, I don't know what the process inside the building, but we'll find extra help if you need it.
Yeah.
If you're having
I think it's
success with that
to
teacher,
admin also, because that is one of their students too, but I would, again, contact your supervisor here.
If you're
Because
having
we gotta
success with
work
that.
together.
yeah, but if you ever get to the point where you're not having success in that, on that